Good evening, everyone. I welcome all of you to the 63rd lecture of our webinar series. As all of you might be knowing, we have been having this webinar series since October 2020, and we have a host of scholars delivering on different aspects of Indian archaeology, recent discoveries. And today in this series, we have with us Dr. S.K. Aruni, one of the well-known scholars who has worked extensively in Indian history, archaeology, and particularly in the Karnataka region. Today, he will be enlightening us with a talk on medieval archaeology in Karnataka. And now I request Manjari to introduce the speaker, then Dr. Aruni can take over.
Okay, thank you.
It is my privilege to introduce Dr. S.K. Aruni, Regional Director of Southern Regional Center of Indian Council of Historical Research under the Ministry of Human Resource Development, Government of India. Dr. Aruni holds a master's degree in history and archaeology from Karnataka University, Dharwad, and has completed his doctoral research at Deccan College, Pune, under the supervision of Professor K. Padaya, where his PhD examined the history and culture of the Surapura Samthana from 1650 to 1857. With over 20 years of experience in research and academic administration at the ICHR, Dr. Aruni has held several key positions, including head of the Southern Regional Center and officiating member secretary of ICHR. Since 2017, he has been serving as regional director of the ICHR Regional Center in Bengaluru. Dr. Aruni has participated in numerous national and international conferences, and his research interests include architectural history, archaeology, and the urban history of medieval South India. I now request Dr. S.K. Aruni to please deliver his presentation.
Thank you, Manjari. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank the organization, particularly Dr. Prabhakar and his entire team and IIT Gandhinagar Authority for invitation to give a lecture in this prestigious series. So I thank all of them. Today I will be talking about the medieval archaeology in Karnataka, particularly how the medieval archaeology has developed and what are the major issues and prospects. So my friend C.V. Patil sir from US has also joined now. I welcome Dr. Patil sir. I would like to share some of the thoughts related to medieval archaeology, particularly in India, the vast area of the archaeology is, most of the sites or most of the excavations, most of the explorations concentrate on early history or prehistory, proto-history, and whereas very little space is given to the historical as well as the medieval archaeology. But nowadays, a lot of scope, particularly scholars have engaged themselves in understanding and making a medieval archaeology very prominent, and a number of sites now recognized as a potential site for medieval archaeology. With this beginning, I will just start with my lecture about the medieval in Indian history. Usually, we have the concept of James Mill, the making a three divisions of Indian history: Hindu, Muslim, and British period. So this is how in 1817, James Mill he divided the Indian history into three categories on the communal or community based, whereas in the modern he has gave the name to the British period. So that was unusual because three Hindu, Muslim, and British. So it did not call it Christian, but this is a criticism of the James Mill's division of Indian history. However, the concepts began and continue till today. Now also the Indian history is divided into three categories: ancient, medieval, modern, or Hindu, Muslim, or appropriate with the ancient with the Hindu classical period, and medieval is a Muslim Indo-Islamic period, and also modern is equal to colonial or British period. it is people they recognize that way. But however, the medieval period is broadly accepted to have extended from the 1300. Medieval period is also, the dates are period is, various places, various dates have been recognized. In the northern India, it starts with the 12th century. In South India, some of the area in Karnataka or Andhra, medieval period starts with 13th century to the beginning of the 18th, 19th century. So that is how the medieval in Karnataka is recognized from 1300 to 13th century to 19th century, beginning of 19th century or 1800. We call it from 1800 onwards, we call it colonial period. So immerse scholarship and define particular phase of social and cultural development that mark its the beginning of the broadly distinguishable. And from earlier ancient, it is very clear from the ancient to modern or ancient to medieval, there is a demarcations we could see in various aspects. Particularly in the medieval period, we could understand the emergence of new political structures. Now regional variations, regional dynasties emerged in the medieval period, whereas in ancient we have empires like Maurya, Gupta, whereas in the medieval period, in the beginning, in the medieval period, we could see Kakatiya, Vaisala, or Yadavas, or Pandyas, various names we could see at regional dynasties in the medieval period. And even later on, Vijayanagara and Deccan Sultanates in South India, we could see that Gangas in Orissa, various dynasties we could see in the medieval period. The reorientation of exchange of networks, that is a important part of the medieval. The network of exchange, we could see very significantly changes, and urbanism across South India and subcontinent we could see in the medieval period, particularly Vijayanagara period and contemporary Vijayanagara period. We could see number of cities, medieval cities, fortified or enclosed settlements we could see in the medieval period across South India. So that is another distinguished features of the medieval period. And the crystallization of distinct regional cultures. In medieval period, it's a clear crystallization of regional cultures we could see. That's why we could see linguistic, particularly languages. We could see, crystal clear differences. Telugu, Kannada, Tamil, Malayalam, and Tulu, all distinct identity we could see in this medieval period. Manifestation of appearance of diverse literature and art, particularly architecture, art and architecture also we could recognize in the medieval period. The use of various Indo-Islamic architecture in various building activities as well as the art we could see in the medieval period in Karnataka. Gradual decentralization of socio-economic and political power and the creation of more hierarchical feudal society. So that is an interesting part of his. In the medieval period, we could see the hierarchical feudal society emerged in this. This is the background of the medieval concept of medievalism or medieval period in South India, particularly Karnataka. So the society, medieval society was, various inscriptions we could see from sources, epigraphy and other various sculptures, and we have large number of sources. Whereas in the ancient we have a limited sources, like paintings we have only Vedanta and other places. Whereas in medieval we have a miniature paintings, large number of miniature paintings in Deccan as well as the wall paintings of Vijayanagara period or contemporary Vijayanagara period we could see across the Nayaka period also. So there are abundant of sources where are available in the medieval period. And sufficient history of society is particularly certain source of not will not be sufficient understanding of the, although we have a royal records or inscriptions, but these are limited to the certain royal family or royal history of the nobles. Whereas in the common man's daily life, like we have a proto history where we have a common man's pottery or structures. Such ideas are not easily available in medieval period in the literature, particularly written textual sources. That's why we have to depend on the archaeology of medieval India, particularly common man's daily life and various aspects of society, etc., would not be possible to understand in the textual records of that. We have very less knowledge of pottery, particularly in Indian context, medieval archaeology is, we have a very less understanding of particularly pottery. Study of pottery is very less. Whereas in the ancient, we have a Gupta, up to Gupta period, we have the good source of pottery from Harappan pottery. We have a recognized various potteries like PGW, black and red ware, northern black polished ware. So these are, recognized as a cultural, trajectories. But whereas it comes to the historical, particularly medieval period, we don't have category of understanding of pottery. We have very less, excavated sites, which of course we have very less study of pottery at technology. We have only one evidence, one Carla Sinopoli, she has done on the pottery of Vijayanagara. Otherwise, we don't have the recognized medieval pottery technology. Although we have sites excavated or sites across many places, but pottery recognition is very less to that. So that is why it's very limited to our study. So the next I would like to mention that how emergence of historical archaeology. We have a in India, archaeology, we have a prehistory, proto-history, particularly proto-history is well recognized, and it is a, highly recognized and significantly is done its growth there. Whereas historical archaeology, we have a, from the period from the Shatavahana or Maurya period, we have very less archaeological excavated sites. We have explorations here and there, numismatic as well as the epigraphy has been made available. But medieval archaeology is very recently it is again been recognized. R.N. Mehta, he actually started advocating the medieval archaeology in India. So that is why it is interesting to know that why we need medieval archaeology. It is question posed to medieval historians always archaeologists. Usually we have a question there why we required archaeology for the medieval period. Of course, we have a large number of records, historical records, contemporary historical records, which is gives a lot of sufficient information about the medieval period. Archaeological materials are considered as a secondary sources and not necessary to study them. So you could see that Mughal history we have a tremendous manuscripts, Akbarnama, contemporary sources. These sources are sufficient to write the medieval history, particularly events of the political history. However, cultural history, particularly we have a standing monuments or built heritage we have. These are recognized as an architectural development or architectural art aesthetic. We could see that. However, these will not be sufficient to understand the medieval society as such, because these records are limited to the particular community, particular elite class, that is a noble class or royal class, upper class society, but not refer to the daily way of life and material evidence such as houses, household materials, space use, etc. These are depend on the archaeological materials. The written records may, many times exaggerate. Many times we have come across, these are written in the courts of the royal families. So usually they have exaggerations or various imaginary records will be there, but these will not be sufficient to understand the the life of the medieval period. Hence, it is needed to have archaeological studies for the historical and medieval period. Even in the colonial period also we have various sites belong to the colonial period. These are also required to study under the archaeological studies. So particularly, I would like to take the quote of the M.S. Mate, Dr. M.S. Madhukar Mate sir, was a professor of Deccan College, and he has worked on the Daulatabad under the Deccan College. This is one site is undertaken excavations under the medieval archaeological methods. So that is why it is interesting to know is the opinion of M.S. Mate. He writes that in Indian archaeologists have so far focused their attention almost exclusively on the ancient. And this is true also, because most of our excavations concentrate on ancient pre-Islamic period. Almost everyone and is engaged in search for earlier and earliest. This is the MS Marty's opinion. Everybody is after the oldest or too much oldest antiquity of the India or man of the culture. He has also gives the statistics of the medieval sites excavated by the ASI with a comparative to the pre and protohistoric sites. One medieval site against the 30 sites. It means that every 30 sites excavated by any agency like ASI, State Archaeology, out of 30, one site will be medieval archaeological sites. So it is a ratio. We could see that 1:30. So this is how he makes his own opinion about the status of Indian archaeology. While Dhaulikar, writing a preface to the famous book is book Historical Archaeology of India. The most neglected aspect of Indian archaeology is the archaeology of historical period. Although from the Alexander Cunningham to Mortimer Wheeler onwards, Indian archaeologists concentrated more on proto-historic archaeology. The historical strata encountered in the excavations was sort of hindrance with which had to be removed. It's very clear. Many times, archaeological excavation sites in the beginning, most of the upper layers are medieval. Sometimes they are medieval, but they are not. Those archaeologists or excavators, they don't take much serious about the collection of antiquities. They, set aside and they go to the next level of the layers. Usually, they avoid the historical strata and they go, and because that is limited to their sources, may be limited to the the time period. So these but however the upper layers contains the medieval. The best example is Pickley Hall was excavated by Alchin, F.R. Alchin. He writes in his Pickley Hall report, in the beginning he mentioned that he identified or he found the upper layer with the pottery. It can be, he recognized as a medieval pottery. And he reports in his report, the Pickley Hall report. That is how the medieval archaeology recognized in the early 1960s, but very limited people or limited scholars have recognized the medieval antiquity as an important source of the history. So usually we have in India, I will be talking a little about, then I will talk about the development in Karnataka. The medieval problems of medieval archaeology in India, particularly in Karnataka, nearly 15 sites have been excavated, belong to the medieval period, like Bada, maybe I'll give the list later. These have been excavated in Karnataka. Many more have been recorded through. Mostly they are exploration under the survey. So apart from excavations, large number of sites have been explored or surveyed and documented. Yet analysis of remains of from these sites and wider interpretation of the sites themselves tend to fall under the purview of the art and architectural history and epigraphical studies. Most of the times we have seen that medieval sites only to document the art and architectural, like a temples or palaces or maybe fort. They will recognize and they document those standing monuments. They don't most of the times they don't go for excavations. Excavations has tended to be limited to the uncovering because resources also limited to our Indian context. We have very less sites excavated under for the medieval sites, because the medieval sites contains large extensive area. It's difficult to undertake the excavations. It's only Archaeology of India can such sites can be taken for the archaeological excavations. That's why maybe limited to cover only remains established foundations of the monuments and fixing their chronological patterns. Many times we undertake the excavations of the monuments where we want to see when it was established, or to understand the chronological parameter, we excavate that. Otherwise analyze under the art historically, either archaeologists or art historians. Many times following excavations, religious sites, then they continue to be the focus of the art history. Most of the medieval sites contains the temples, mathas, or monasteries, or many other medieval religious aspects. So usually we come across, we tend to study the architectural, studies, particularly those not future. And many times archaeological literature also we have very rarely revisit by archaeologists. Excuse me, I'll take. So this is how in India we encounter with the undertaking medieval archaeology is a problem with the various aspects. Particularly, we have a abundant sites. That's another problem in Indian archaeology. If we have a limited sites, we could really recognize them and analyze them, study them, and conserve them and protect them. Whereas in India, it's every village has a archaeological sites. So it's difficult to document, particularly undertake the extensive survey or making a documentation. Particularly conserving and protecting is the biggest challenge. However, it is in India or particularly in Karnataka, we have a number of sites of medieval period from the 1300 to 1800. These are fortified sites, or many sites are even debris are we could see in the within the fort area. So that is how I would like to see that how medieval archaeology recognized in India, particularly R.N. Mehta. He writes the book in 1979. He published a book called Medieval Archaeology. That is the beginning of the medieval archaeology in India. That is how we call it. R.N. Mehta is the founder of medieval archaeology in India, and he makes the excavations at Pavgad in Gujarat, and he published a book on medieval archaeology. So that is a pioneering work in South in India. And thereafter, in like Daulatabad, M.S. Mate excavate the site, and there are also sites like Golconda was also excavated by Archaeologists of India. So such sites, the many sites have been excavated, like Baravati in Orissa was also excavated, and there are some sites like Alabid, they were also excavated, but they were not recognized as a medieval archaeological sites. Archaeological excavations, because most of the times they are excavations like a debris clearance or sometimes clearing the area. So they structures. So these are some of the sites, not like a proto-historic archaeological sites where the every antiquity has been documented. In the medieval sites, like many places, we have an antiquity collection rather than excavations and collecting of the documentation of this. So that is how the best example is like I just mentioned that around Hyderabad, near Hyderabad, this Golconda was excavated, and it has we could see that similarity between the antiquities or remains of the Golconda and contemporary Vijayanagara. We have a lot of similarity in the antiquities there. Although these two sites are different, particularly these are Deccan Sultanates, Qutub Shahis, and particularly Bahmani and Qutub Shahi sites, but they have the antiquity, they have similarity between Vijayanagara and South Indian any other medieval sites with the Golconda. This just to show that how the medieval archaeology is recognized, excavations conducted in South India, particularly this is a pre-Vijayanagara excavations. This is the palace structure of the Golconda. It was published. It was excavated in around 1956 somewhere. So these are the early documentation of the Golconda excavations. These are some of the around tombs of the Qutub Shahi area. These structures, palace structures, and other structures, they recognized and they undertook the excavations there. And similarly, you could see that Nagarjunakonda was also extensively excavated there, where we have a early historic site. That's the early historic sites recognized by it was excavated. The entire site has been shifted there. So there also we could see structures in the Nagarjunakonda, but they are not medieval. But this is the Golconda is the medieval structures, and antiquity, particularly palace structures or any other remains, we could see that these are the beads. Beads were found in the excavations, Qutub Shahis. These are all published in the Indian annual report, Indian Archaeological Report annual report. These are the inscribed Chinese porcelain ware. We could this kind of pottery was commonly available throughout South, particularly throughout South India, even North India. These potteries imported from different exchanges were done in the medieval period, early Vijayanagara and post Vijayanagara period also. And these available in medieval sites. Most of the medieval sites contains this Chinese porcelain ware. So that is how even from the Chaul, from Maharashtra, Konkan area, and these potteries have traveled across South India. This is the one example from Golconda. Chinese pottery was found in and gold objects. Similar gold objects also found in Vijayanagara, but here also we have a good example of gold ornaments, rings, and other. There are also pottery, fine, we call it fine ware. These are the our decorated pottery wares, and this can be seen in the Middle East or Central Asia pottery. It was, we have a this kind of shapes, which is a Indo-Islamic, varieties we could see in South in Deccan also. So this is how we could see that how the trade contact between the Central Asia and Middle East Asia and with the India. So these are the good evidence of, although these have been excavated, have been reported, but when the history, these are not taken as evidences. Many times archaeological materials are confined to only reports. Not many people or historians, they use them for understanding or making a history writing. So these are medieval archaeology, whereas in the early historic or even proto-historic archaeology or history of the proto-history, we depend on the pottery, we depend on the antiquities of the proto-historic sites. Whereas in the medieval, we depend on textual records. Although we have a abundant archaeological materials like Golconda and I will show and Vijayanagara also, but these are not much incorporated in the historical writings or history of the medieval period. So there is another also on terracotta objects, and we could see that similarity in the various medieval sites. This is a terracotta elephant, Qutub Shahi, near Qutub Shahi tombs. It shows that habitation site. That area we could easily identify how the habitation sites contains major antiquities are there. So coming to the medieval archaeological sites, particularly in the after the independence, maybe because of various reasons, particularly post World War II, our history, the understanding of Indian history or Southeast Asian history started changing our perspective. Because earlier it was dynastic history they used to. Now after the post independence, we could see the writing of Indian history where shifted from dynastic political history to the socio-economic history. So that's why kind of a feudal order, feudal system. So these regional dynasties or regional society. So these ideas actually emerged in the post independence. In that context, the government of India under the leadership of Nurul Hassan, he proposed the making a national projects for the medieval sites, because by that time Champaner, which was recognized and studied by R.N. Mehta, and he influenced the government to undertake the major excavations or major national sites as a national projects. Three sites were recognized for the national project. One is Fatehpur Sikri of the Mughal, and the second one is Champaner of the Pavgad area, Gujarat, and the third one is Hampi was selected as a national project. And these three important sites were taken as a national project. Due to the recognizing national project as a project, Hampi became an important site. Both state archaeology and archaeology of India, they took it as an important site and started excavating. Major excavations project began. Beginners R.C. Agarwal, Dr. C.V. Patil are with us. They could see, and they have also witnessed the beginning of the Hampi excavations. So Hampi became an important site, particularly medieval archaeological methods. From 1976 onwards, Archaeology of India started engaging the excavations, conservation, as well as the protection of the sites of Hampi. And vast area has been excavated under ASI as well as the state archaeology. And the Hampi became an important medieval archaeological site, entire in maybe in India, particularly South India. This is one of the biggest medieval archaeological site in Karnataka. It is apart from in Karnataka, apart from Hampi, also there are various sites have been excavated, particularly Halebeedu, Uchengidurga. There is a place called Bada. It is a regional provincial headquarter. It was in the Malnad area. Barkur is on the coastal area. Barkur was the provincial headquarter of the Vijayanagara. And there is also a place called Mirzan. Mirzan is the pepper trade center on the coastal area of that area. Nagara, we call it Vasanagara. We call it Nagara is again in the Malnad area, Western Ghat area. Aivale is a Hivala is also excavated. Talakadu extensively excavated by state archaeology. Talakadu is one important site from the ancient, proto-historic to the medieval modern modern period. Halebeedu is also capital city of Vaisala. There is a place called Chitradurga. It's a fortified town post Vijayanagara period, Nayaka period. It is also excavated by Archaeology of India. And Srirangapatana, sorry, I'll take water. Srirangapatana was also excavated by Archaeology of India in 2010, somewhere 2011 or 10. And there is also excavations taken at Koppala. So these are some of the sites under the medieval archaeological methods. Sites have been excavated in Karnataka. So that's why it is interesting to know that how Karnataka is important for medieval archaeology, particularly with Hampi as a centric archaeological site. Apart from that, there are sites like Uchendurga, antiquities found at Bhada, Barkur, and even Chitradurga, or we could see the similarity, or there is a similarity between all of these sites. So with this sites, I will just begin how important sites like Bijapur and medieval sites have been recognized and studied by the colonial scholars. These now, of course, because of various reasons, these are unable to excavate some of the sites, but these are all used for the systematic study under the research methods of the medieval archaeological sites. Important methods have been adopted, particularly systematic survey. Any archaeological sites, first usually similarly, systematic survey has to be conducted, and mapping of architectural and archaeological remains at the site. This is the first attempt has to be done. Mapping of every architectural archaeological remains we have to make. Conducting scientific excavations, both vertical and horizontal excavations has to be adopted. Study of pottery is also conducted in the sites. Study of surface features, particularly this is another version of understanding of medieval sites, because most of the medieval sites have a very extensive sites. So it's difficult to excavate the entire site. So at least we have to make a surface features documentations. This will give an idea about the demography and the space use pattern we could see in the medieval period. That's the best way of making the documentation of application of ethnographic studies. Like in Karnataka we have a hilly area like Chitradurga, Hampi, other places where we have sites have been recognized. But to understand more about how people are living on the hilly terrain, what kind of space has been used. This is the best way to make a documentation of ethnographic study. We can understand the land use of the area. Use of archival sources, particularly this is very important for the medieval archaeology. Like old sketches, like drawings, colonial period or pre-colonial period, I recently, made one study on Bijapur. Bijapur is the capital city of the Adil Shahis of medieval Deccan, and this was visited by number of Europeans as well as the Middle East travelers. They have made a records of every aspect of the city, and these have been published in diaries or in the records, various records or memoirs. So I could trace them all this from the 1550 onwards, around 1550 onwards till 1910. I have collected more than 35 different period, different travelogue records, which will give a lot of idea about the medieval sites. And interestingly, the photography, when the photography was introduced in India, camera was introduced in India way back 1856. The sites like Bombay Presidency took a important project. One is in Ahmedabad, and second one is Bijapur. Third one was on the inscriptions of Dharwad and Mysore area. And 1856 we have the photograph records like Hampi, like Bijapur, Halabid. The first photography was documented in Karnataka is Vaisala temple at Belur, and we have a same times we have a photography making at Hampi, Bijapur. These have been published also. Some of them have been published. So these are the very good evidence of understanding of medieval sites. Particularly, due to the recent remote sensing images and aerial images, which is easily available. Earlier it was very difficult to get a aerial photography. Now we have a Google Maps, Google images, which will even drone have been used for the large fortified settlements sites. So these methods usually we come across, use them for our. This is one example of Daulatabad. This has been excavated by M.S. Mate, and he could recognize the various spaces, Amber Court. He has recognized the various places of the the settlement, particularly Amber Court. He has recognized them, and he has also made excavations of the palace area. Hammam was recognized. So medieval archaeology, like Daulatabad was the one landmark for the medieval archaeology in India, particularly in South India. We have Hampi as well as. So this is a Hampi is well known from the history. I will turn into the excavations at Hampi. It way back in Archaeology of India, recognized as a national project from 1976 onwards. Continuously, it has been excavated. Prior to that, also a lot of surveys has been done on the Hampi, particularly Colonel Mackenzie. He visited Hampi as a part of the survey of northern Pargana of Mysore state and Madras area. So he visited the Hampi and he made a survey of the map of the Hampi. Till today, it is recognizable, and most of the monuments which is documented in the Mackenzie's maps, some are missing, but most of them they still recognize them. And this is the first map of the site and of the Hampi by Colonel Mackenzie. And this map is freely available in the Hampi Museum, Archaeology of India's site museum in Kamalapura. And this has been also published by the various scholars like George Mitchell and others. So this is how the Hampi, the survey started, and around 1850 and 60s, photography, I just mentioned photography. First photography was done on the site like Hampi. Alexander Ringlaw is a famous photographer. He came from Europe and he took a lot of photographs, and it has been recognized and studied, and these have been published by State Archaeology. And this is a valuable records of the old site of Hampi. Survey and sculptures 1940 onwards. As a national project, Hampi was one of the important site for the exhibitions. And this is the old photography of Hampi, 1856. you could see that landscape of that area. Around nearly more than 20-25 years, the excavations have been conducted. As you know, the Hampi is the one of the site is abandoned after the defeat of the Vijayanagara in 1565, Battle of Talikot. Medieval large structures were built and timber stones were locally available rubble and dressed stones. These are the common features of the Hampi site, and number of palaces are they were burnt during the battle, during the ransacking of the city in 1565. And there is a one good evidence of Italian traveler. He has made a record of Hampi in 1568 or 67, after the 2 years of Battle of Talikot. That is 1565. After 2 years, he made a visit to the city, and he has recorded that the city has been abandoned. Not many people are living there. He has recorded all the streets and monuments. That is a good evidence of understanding of the post Vijayanagara fall. We could see that how the slowly that city became a deserted, and later on, due to the various reasons, the entire site became abandoned, and many people started moving to the different place like Kamlapura, Waspet. So that's why the city, we could see today's medieval the medieval character of city, or medieval debris, medieval habitation site, everything was intact till today. It's intact for understanding of the site. So all of us, we know this Vijayanagara kingdom of Vijayanagara Empire. The Hampi was the capital from 1336 to almost 1565. It was a capital city, and it was important capital city in South India. And various four dynasties: Sangama, Salva, Tuluva, Aravidu. So four dynasties ruled from here. Aravidus shifted from till Tuluvas, the capital city was the Vijayanagara. Then they shifted to Chandragiri. Then they went to Penagunda, and then later on Chandragiri. So this is how the story of Vijayanagara. We could see that this is just to show that the kingdom, extension of the kingdom, and the emblem, and as also just to see how kings were celebrating in the city. The Vijayanagara Empire in South India, of course, just rapidly just go that all of Vijayanagara Empire was important in South Indian history, and it has a in the beginning interesting is in the Vijayanagara, the beginning of Vijayanagara is also beginning of the use of gunpowder. We could see in this contemporary period. That's why in Battle of Raichur is a significant battle in 1520. Where it was used, gunpowder was used in the battle. So thereafter, the use of gunpowder, military architecture became important, and that's why most of the sites, most of the medieval towns or semi-towns became an enclosure or military center, particularly fortified towns or fortified villages. So you could see the military centric the society began in that from the Vijayanagara period onwards, and it continued to the colonial period with only after 1858, 7 and 58, after the British, First World War First Independence War in India. So British, they dismantled most of the forts. Otherwise, they would have continued. But till that, these fortified towns became important future of the medieval urban or medieval sites. So this is how the Hampi, it is on the bank of Tungabhadra river. The Hampi is located. It is naturally protected by the hills, granitic hills, and one side is a river is there. So it is a natural as well as the fortified. It is entire area is a fortified. It's a around 650 square kilometer area is covers this area. So it has a fortified wall, many gates, entrance gates are there, and there it is. Vijayanagar is also understood as a large capital city with one side is a sacred area, one is agriculture area, one is the royal enclosure area and urban area. So and surrounding area, surrounding capital town, there are semi-urban towns like semi-urban centers, Kamalapura, Hospete, all they were laid around the city for catering the various day-to-day materials. So it is a well thought of medieval town with the large number of population. It's estimated that Vijayanagara was populated in the peak around 1500 when Krishnadevaraya was there. Could be around 1 lakh, nearly 1 lakh population was settled there in the Vijayanagara town. That is how the estimations have been conducted based on the archaeological findings there and architectural monuments like temples, various structures. So based on this evidences, the city of Vijayanagara is now understood properly. Otherwise, before the archaeological excavations or archaeological studies, only political history, particularly kind of a Vijayanagara became important as a city of as a kingdom of a rivalry or Deccan Sultanates. All these hypothetical studies were conducted, but when it comes to the medieval city town of Vijayanagara period, we have a foreign traveler records are there. However, some of them they are taken as important evidences, but many times in archaeological findings we have a different opinion there. I'll just show you how they are different from the written records. Hampi, from already mentioned, Archaeology of India started excavating the site way back in 1976 onwards. Simultaneously, Karnataka State Archaeology Department, also under the MS Nagaraj Rao was the director at that time. So the Department of Archaeology, State Archaeology as well as Archaeology of India began excavations in Hampi. Archaeology of India got the special provisions under the national project, and also state archaeology also started excavating these sites, particularly the royal enclosure area, the palace area. Number of palaces are excavated by state archaeology, whereas the government archaeology of India excavated the bazaars of the major streets like Virupaksha Temple, Achyuta Temple, Vittala Temple. These bazaars were excavated by state archaeology of India, and also Janana area, some of the area where the archaeology of India undertook the excavations. That will just show you some of the important excavated sites. And these, exposed mantapas, palaces, and bazaars, many structures. Bazaar was recognized by the travelers, foreign travelers, but they were also recorded. The bazaars, roads are laid with the cobble, particularly stone laying, but these were not visible on the ground. When the Archaeology of India excavated one of the bazaar, they could see that the pavement of the granite slabs or boulders, we could see that. So that is how the excavations revealed a lot of information about the site. Karnataka State Archaeology also undertook, already mentioned, MS Nagaraj Rao was the director of the State Archaeology Department. Inside the excavated site at Hampi, state government, state department undertook large-scale excavations at Dandanayakan Palace area, Nobleman Palace area, and also bazaar streets in front of Virupaksha Achyuta temples. The contribution of the state department also significant in the research. And every year they used to publish the progress report. Very interesting is these reports are very important, particularly understanding the medieval archaeology, medieval site of Hampi. For 5 to 6 years, they continuously published Vijayanagara research project of progress of research from 1917. Every year they published, and it contains large number of excavated details as well as the special articles by important scholars or those who are working on the a site. They have written various aspects of Vijayanagara, and this Vijayanagara report continue to publish now till now also by state government, but they conduct the seminar at the site Hampi every year, and in the Hampi Utsav or Festival of Hampi. And State Archaeology conduct the seminar, and the proceedings of seminar conducted under the in Kannada as well as the English progress Vijayanagara progress report. So this is a continuity of the work still now, but the peak the archaeological excavations by ASI State Archaeology gave a lot of information, particularly understanding of the citadel area of the Vijayanagara towards the this is the all of us we know Vijayanagara is on the left bank of the Tungabhadra, and it has a number of designated area, urban core area, and it is a royal enclosure area. Particularly it has a bazaar area, sacred area. So these have been the maps have been these site have been divided according to the space or use of the space area, water area, and it is understood with various area like palace area, fortified area, particularly suburban areas. So I'll just go through. This is how the Hampi looks from the far away. The palace area. The palace usually Vijayanagara period we have a palace extensive. Usually they are enclosed with the high walls. Within the palace, within the area is usually open area. Open we call it in Kannada Angala. Then we have a palace. It is a very similar to the palace of the in the Malnad area, what we call Western Ghat, Western hilly area. The big houses, similar pattern we could see that in the palace structures. These are in the beginning the courtyard, then we have a padasale, then nadumane, then adigamane, then we have a servant quarters. So these palace structures we could see that the entire area is enclosed with the high walls. Sometimes they have a watchtowers, particularly Janana area. We have a watchtowers on the three sides, so to watch and protect the palace complexes. So this is how the city of Vijayanagara has been recognized with the archaeological findings. Based on the archaeological findings, we could, but in the written text, no way we have this recognized or classification of the city. We could divisions of the cities written. But we could see based on the availability of the structures, availability of the space use, we could, scholars have classified or divided. One is called sacred area, where we have a large number of temples like Virupaksha, Achyuta, Krishna, Vithala. Then large number of temple complexes are available on the bank of the Tungabhadra, right bank of the Tungabhadra. So that's why it is treated as a sacred area where we have a large number of temples with the bazaars. Bazaar streets are there. Achyuta, Krishna, and then we have Vithala, we have a Virupaksha, we have a all these temple complex we could see in a particular area that is on the bank of the river area. When you cross this area, then we have come across in between area that is agricultural field. We call it because large area is under the cultivation. There is also canal, water canal come from the Tungabhadra river. This is called Turtu Kaluve, we call it in local name. This actually flows through this area in between the sacred area and palace fortified area. So this is recognized as agricultural agriculture area. And after that, agriculture crossing agriculture land, we have come across fortifications surround in this area, like a rectangular shape with a large number of bastions around. And these are all the fort is built up, contour of the hills area, and making a big area, open area or valley area as a palace area. So this is called city urban core area. It is a divided or recognized as a urban or city as urban core area. So where we have a number of particularly royal enclosure area, Janana, Palace, Lotus Mahal, Dandanayaka, and various enclosures are here. This is called Royal Center, and this area is where the town proper town could be there. So this is the important aspect of the this palace area is the Mahanami Dibba. That is a Dasara festival, platform, very important platform where the king is usually receives the his subordinates, and annual conference will be held at the Mahanami platform. So these, apart from that, there are king's audience hall, stepped tank. The entire area is a 59,400 square meter area. This is the biggest enclosure area where we have a stepped tank is also there. Large open water tank is also there. There is also rock cut tank is also there. There is also underground secret chamber is also there. These are all found in this. This is the enclosure, royal enclosure area. This is the 100 pillared hall. This you could see variety of functions of the royal family could be arranged in the most of this area with the Mahanavadibba in the at the end. So this is how the documentation of the medieval site, particularly large site like Hampi, has been done, and under the medieval archaeological. This is the one example of this is excavated. This kind of excavations is very difficult, but however, this 100 pillar, sorry, 1,000 pillar darbar was excavated by ASI, and this is the large area, large structure was exposed. And also you could see that number of the excavated sites, like similar, Archaeology of India's excavations, we could see same pattern is also adopted here. Pottery and number of gold coins were also received, found in this area. And also the interesting part is in one of the exhibitions there are quite a number of sculptures belong to 1st century AD. That is a Shatavana period. Buddhist sculptures were they found in the excavated site. It showed that this site, I mean, there are hypothetical ideas. This maybe site is belong to the old 1st century AD, but MS Nagara's opinion that these sculptures are brought from the somewhere from Andhra Pradesh, and they installed here maybe during the Krishnadevaraya's time. That is how he his opinion he expressed there. So it shows that because there is also another interesting is there is a well, there is a stepped well is there, highly ornated stepped well is there. This is not a originally built here. This is a the stones are brought from the, this is a chloritic schist stone. It is a systematic, like we have a building of the wells like in Gujarat, same pattern, but these are, this well is the stones are, or well was carved or maybe prepared somewhere and brought and installed here, or maybe recreated here. This is how this is a very interesting and important discovery of the Hampi, particularly under the excavations, because there was a before excavation there was a only clue. There was only one clue was that there is a water channel. It was up to this place. It was completely buried. Then they thought that there must be some structure beneath the this earth. So started excavating this well, and they recognized there is a underneath well is there. So each stone is perfectly carved, and each has a mark. Left side, right side, and number one. They have given a number so that to reinstall. Installing was very easy. So that according to the source, I mean study by Philip Wagner, he mentioned that these stones were brought from the somewhere in the Kakatiya area or the Andhra neighboring now Andhra area, Kakatiyas, because that was the neighboring state. So Kakatiyas, one of the well was dismantled and brought these stones, and they buried. I mean, they installed or reconstructed as a well in this palace complex. Why this kind of ornated well was was required in palace area? This can be Wagner opinion that this may be the reason, because it is also associated with the Mahanami platform. Rituals usually they take place on the Mahanami Dibba on annual rituals. This could be used as a rituals water source water. They're taking water from here and going to the Mahanami Dibba during the ritual time. So some of the stones, black stones are also could see now also the black stones are used in the Mahanami Dibba on the outer. They are added later period. So the stones belong to the Paleolithic cyst found in the somewhere in Andhra Pradesh. They brought here and installed. This is one of the important discovery in Hampi. Similarly, there are a number of wells around the Mahanami Dibba nearby. You could see some of the water source collections, water sources it is. There is also, I just mentioned that how palaces were built. These palaces are, very interesting. Is local, the, variety houses, how the local important noble houses are there. Same pattern they have been. This is called Angala in Kannada, the courtyard. Then when you from courtyard you go into the upper level. There you have a Nadumane, that is a central hall. Usually common, assembling people. And either side of the central hall, we have a rooms are the private rooms as well as the on the three sides we have a rooms are there. These private rooms, and behind that, servant quarters is also there. There is also lavatory or toilets are also built just away from the palace structure. So this entire area is again enclosed. On either side of the courtyard, we have a open jagli or open halls are there with the pillared open hall. So this is called, local name is Jagali. So these Jagali on either side, same pattern of houses are found in the northern Karnataka. So this pattern of making a palace, we could see in the most of the Nayaka period, continuity in the Nayak period also. So that is how I'll skip some of the important, some of the slides. So just I'll go to the important place called Nobleman's area. During the excavations, large number of palaces were unearthed or excavated, and these have been recognized, they've been recorded, and these have been studied also. There is another excavated site, Nobleman's Palace. I just mentioned this is a courtyard. On either side, we have a jagli, a pillared hall, and then we have a upper central hall. Central Nadumane is there, Padasale, Nadumane. Then we have a facade, and on central hall on either side we have rooms are there. There are rooms, some of the rooms are there. So behind that, quarters, servant quarters, kitchen, and stables, all are found within this enclosure area. This is a palace area. So otherwise, most of the contemporary text, they don't talk about how the house palaces are built, but they mention about the palace, Aramane, or palaces, the life in the palaces. But how they were constructed, we don't have any much evidence in the. But only archaeological findings can easily identify. We can identify how the structures were built or palaces are built in the medieval period. This is another Lotus Mahal. All of us we know this is a very famous Hampi Lotus Mahal. This again structures, number of structures are excavated, and now also anybody can see them because they are under conservation, and these are Archaeology of India is protecting most of the excavated site, and some of the sites, some of the standing monuments still there. This is called Queen's Bath. This is a Mackenzie's sketch, and this is a good example of understanding of the medieval Queen's Bath before most of the structures were falling. So this is how the structure was looking. Palace near octagonal bath. This is another structure. There is also inscriptions. Number of inscriptions found around. Way back 260 inscriptions have been identified, and unpublished inscriptions have been identified before. I'm talking about 1990. So most of the new inscriptions found in the related to the structures, or one of this structure talks about the palace of Harihara king. So this is how the palace of the particular area, particular kings also identified. These are some of the structures excavated by ASI. So these are some of the temples surrounding. Around the temples also, usually we come across temple and abandoned area, but here after the excavations, it's very clear that around the temple there was a density of populations were there. So there was streets, there was structures, there was some important places. The houses were there around the temples are there. So this kind of palace structures, extensive structures, we could see even now. We could see that laying up the streets, laying up the important streets could be seen in the excavated area, and each one has a palace has a separate private toilets are there, and water sources and many water container. These all common features of the palaces are there. So this is a just to show water, kind of a storage, and some of these structures around that stables, or sometimes we have toilets. So these are the interesting part. Medieval society could be seen in this. This is a bazaar of the Virupaksha temple. This is excavated by state archaeology and as well ASI. So entire street is, we could see that how the structures were laid in that, and these are been recorded in the foreign travelers. So these are the layers of the excavated site. We could see that even though it is a single culture site, but we could see that sub layers. We could see that the formation of the layers. This is by Archaeology of India, reported in annual report. So this is we could see that layer, upper part is a layer laying of the cobble road, and some of the these are the cobble stones. This is the pavement. Above that, there are formation of layers. Could see that. Antiquities from medieval period, we could see number of antiquities have been terracotta objects, copper, silver, gold coin rings, metal bangles, iron nails, beads, ivory objects, stucco figures. These medieval antiquities have been same. I just mentioned, just showed that similar pattern of antiquities also found in Golconda. Same period, we have a Shivalinga, then we have this kind of metal objects, and these are the pipes also found there. And stucco images, these are royal portraits, sculptures. You could see in the sculptures also sometimes we come across, and there is also a lot of literature talks about the how kings wear the cap, that is called in local language kulai. The king was wearing the everyday the kulai, that is a made up of the cloth, and this same pattern we could see in the stucco images are there. The decorated hairdress we could see in the another sculptures. So this is how the medieval character of stucco images or portraits we could see that. Some stucco sculptures of very interesting, their ornament, their dress. So these could be seen and visible in the medieval sculptures. Pottery, I already mentioned, a good record or good study has been conducted by Carla Sinapoli, Pots and Palaces, the title of the book. And she has identified various shapes and various utensils of the pottery. And these have been well recorded, well studied by similar work is also needs to be done in the other parallel sites. So these are the Chinese pottery has been excavated or discovered in Hampi. So this show that the relations between the trade contacts and with the Harappa interland site like Hampi, you could see that in this area. So there are Hampi excavations, some of the ornaments, some of the pipes. So these are very important understanding of the metallurgy as well as the use of these objects, and the similarity between the medieval sites like Golconda, Baravati, various sites, Daulatabad pattern. We could see the similarity in there. These are the terracotta beads, medieval, and they also interesting is during the excavations one full elephant was full skeleton of elephant was discovered there. And interestingly, there is also collection of or remains of human animal, both animal and human skeletons were found in one particular area. So earlier they thought that this is a massacre during the battle of Talikot or sacking of the Hampi, but these are all with the animal bones also available there. So this is also found in the excavated site. So interpretations made, various scholars have been interpreted. So there is also landscape archaeology, particularly in Hampi, various agents, particularly scholars, institutions, like we have a Vijayanagar research project by John Fried and John Michel undertook. All the standing monuments, they started documenting and making a study of those standing monuments. Also, surface landscape archaeology was also introduced there. So, particularly understanding of the use of landscape, habitation structures, surface archaeology was implemented at Hampi by John Michel, John Fried. So the entire team, I was also part of their team. I also worked at Hampi for 3 years, and we could document every structure or archaeological findings on the surface. These are very interesting for us. How the people were living there on the hilly area, particularly are surrounded by the hills, boulders. How the people were cutting the stones. These are all recorded there. So these are the abandoned querns are there. These are the abandoned in the field. So these show that the habitation area. This is how people are living and using them. That surfaces. So each surfaces was used for the various reasons, particularly grinding. Slabs are there, querns are there. So there are sources of water storage is also there. There are also tying the animals, because this is the open area people are living. Usually we look at the palace structures, some elite class or upper class society structures, but these are the common man, how common man on the ground, in the open area was living with the making use of the space. Like this is how the animals were tied, and these are the antiquities will show how people were used for the till today. This area is a even you go to the each village or each houses, this is the common features we get there. Grinding stones or quarries usually we come across. And also understanding which part of the highly density population was there, which area was not that much, or which road was extensively used. This can be understood with the mapping or documenting the streets. If it is worn out, too much worn out, we could see that the street was extensively used during the Vijayanagar period. So this is how the worn out area, recognized, studied, and also how the houses were built, and the past times. Many times, in the open hilly area, fortified area, the soldiers are confined to the watching and warding. So that time, during their leisure time, they used to make a time pass. So they used to have a game boards on the surface. These game boards will tell us how people were living in this open area, and how the people were there. So these are the surface collections will understand, and making a city or making a documentation of the city is based on the both archaeological excavated area, excavated materials, as well as the surface documentation will give a very good idea based on the surface, as well as the explorations, as well as the surface collections, as well as the archaeological antiquities. This entire city has been already mentioned three categories. One is sacred area, agriculture area, and urban core area. So that is how each one has a different characters, features, and this has been studied there. So this is how the fort. It's not that very defense architecture is very normal, looks normal, but these are built within the hilly area. It gives the protection to the urban area, urban enclosure area, and each one has a certain area. We have a mantapa. It is called watchtower, where people were sitting there and watching from there. So similar things, and gateways, and these are the important gateways, and these are been documented. And this is a very important Sri Rangara. Each gate has a name. Bhima Gate, Sri Rangara Gate. Each one has a different names, which will give a very good idea about that. So this is a Bhima Gate. The Bhima Gate came because there is a big sculpture of Bhima So based on that sculpture, this gate is known as Bhima Gate there. So I will not go into details. I mean, structures, elephant, classical or monumental structures are there, like elephant stables, Janana enclosures, watchtowers, and palace Janana area. So each one has been documented, studied by scholars and by Archaeology of India and Karnataka State Archaeology. So this is how the old old sketch made by Mackenzie and new photography, and this can be understood with the how much we lost, how much remained there. So this is the old sketch. This is a Pansupari area, Bazaar, beginning of the Pansupari area. This has a, actually originally it had a arched gate. We could see that carving on the corner. So now it is only small remains are remained. Otherwise, it is a arched gate. Originally arched gate was there. This is the beginning of that. So there are structures, double structures, and apart from Hampi, there are sites excavated in Karnataka. Like there is a one place called Bada. It is in the Shimoga district. It is known as a important place of the area. This is a what you call Kanakadasa is a very important bhakti saint, belong to the Vijayanagara period, and said to be he had a palace in the place called Bada, and it was excavated by state state government. There is a separate authority, authority of this palace structures. One of the excavations at Bhada revealed the same pattern of these palace structures of the Hampi, where we have a similar pattern of Jagati or a platform of the palace structure is found there also. That similarity between the palace of the Hampi as with the Bhada is, we could see similarity in between them. So this is a palace, the courtyard of the palace, and each one is like a temple basement. Same pattern is also found here. And pottery also, they have collected, and these are common feature of the medieval pottery. These are some of the beads they found there. Some of the the similarity in Hampi, same pattern we could see that that Shivalinga with there is also metal objects. The bangles also found there, ivory. Some of the there is also one excavations in 2001 at Chitradurga Nayaka site. This is a Nayaka period. Archaeology of India excavated 2 seasons, got excavated, but some materials were originally it was documented by Mackenzie in 1800. This is the old map of Mackenzie, and excavations was done on the one of the port area, and they could recognize some of the structures, but they could not continue after 2 seasons. Now again, if the excavations continued, you could get important information about that. So just to say, Adabid was also excavated in 1984-87, and 3 seasons, 84 to 87, there 3 seasons excavated. And temple, one old temple, which was Viceroy period temple, was excavated that area. So unfortunately, we don't have much antiquity remains documentation, but temple structure was buried. They unearthed the entire temple in this excavation, 3 season excavation. So there is also this is how with this I just end my talk. But however, I would like to mention that the lot of potential we could see in the medieval archaeology in Karnataka, and luckily we have a large site like Hampi is a highlight of our medieval archaeology. Similar sites also we have in various places, particularly coastal area like Bharpur was excavated by Mythic Society as well as the Archaeology of India. Still the documentation or report is awaiting. So there was also excavations at Mirzam, was also undertook excavations, some of the materials, but most of the excavations confined to the antiquity collection rather than stratigraphy or making a site formation all these studies yet to be conducted. Otherwise, most of the sites not been much focused. However, with this, I conclude my talk. That it needs medieval archaeology given more focus also, and many sites because we have a sites in pre-proto and early historic sites across the India, but medieval sites we have very less. Particularly when you say Mate's work and Daulatabad, he mentioned that most of the medieval sites in Maharashtra we have confined to the post Yadava period. So whereas in Karnataka we have a early medieval to medieval, we have a continuity of the sites. This will be very helpful to understand the continuity of the pottery culture, antiquities. So this required there. Once again, I thank the authority of IIT Gandhinagar, particularly humanities department, to Prabhakar and his entire team. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
close
Thank you
my.
so much for this extensive and wonderful review of the medieval archaeology. I now invite questions. I mean, if the participants they have any questions, they can type it in the Q&A chat box. They will be taken up now. And in the meantime, we have one question here by Chaitanya Dubey.
No,
Is the problem of chronology responsible for the neglect of archaeology of historical period in India?
yes, sir. I think it's true, sir. Chronology means upper layers always be, sit, aside. These are, medieval. We don't have sub chronological order. You don't recognize them as a sub chronological order. However, the sites of early historic sites have been excavated, various places, but they confined to the early historic antiquities mostly. So, best example is Piklihal was excavated by Alchin. In the beginning, he noticed that the pottery belonged to the medieval. So there is a one such evidence just to show medieval. The pottery was available in the early historic or no, Neolithic period also be in the sites. So the problem of chronology is always there. Upper layers are even a single site like Hampi is very very rare kind of sites we come across, because Hampi after the Battle of Talikot it was abandoned and it is single culture site. So similarly we don't get single cultural sites many places like Halebeed. If you go to the place like Chitradurga, we come across post Vijayanagara period also, the site might have been continued there. So there is the problem of chronology is always a problem, but this will not be the sole problem for the understanding of the medieval archaeological excavations. It can be taken as a challenge and can be understood or with the proper excavations.
Thank you. There is a question by Shika Rai.
Okay.
She is congratulating to you for a fantastic talk.
Thank you, sir.
She is asking if there is any attempt made to digitize the city layouts and details of other important aspects of the city.
Yes, sir. This has been done by John Fritz. It is called Atlas of Hampi. Last since 1983 or 87 onwards, continuously made a atlas of making a documentation of every the archaeological findings on the surface, and these are being prepared as under the survey maps, not separate, specially made survey maps of the 1:400 400 centimeter site survey maps, and these have been now I think they have taken for the digitization, and it is also recorded in one of these article how these are going to be digitized, and some publication also by the Manohar publication has published the Atlas of Vijayanagara, sir. So there is also attempt to make a digital documentation.
Thank you. There is one question by Prakhar Kant.
Huh.
Are there any books available regarding understanding medieval potteries?
Yes, sir. I just mentioned this Carla Sinopolis book, Pots and Palaces. This is entirely on the Vijayanagara, particularly Archaeology of India, one particular excavated site, trench. She has published it is published by Manohar publication, Pots and Palaces. Apart from that, Karnataka state government, state archaeology department also published the report of Hampi, but it is not a report as such. It is a catalog actually, written by Vasudevan, C. Vasudevan. It is only just a cataloging. It is not a research, but there is a publication of the entire antiquities, particularly pottery of the Hampi, excavated by state archaeology, or published by Hampi excavations by this Karnataka state archaeology, sir. Apart from that, there are references to the sites, different sites. Annual report of Archaeology of India has these reports in the, some of the reports have the pottery publications, sir.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. Yeah. So we don't have any questions. So we
Yes,
can
sir.
close it now. And I thank you once again for this wonderful talk. And thank you for sparing your time to join us. And
Thank you, sir. So nice.
so thank all the participants for participating in this talk. And and CB Patil ji is also congratulating you.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I request all the participants to join us in the forthcoming talks also. We'll be having some wonderful sessions in the forthcoming months also. Thank
I
you.
also thank all the participants, sir, for joining for this talk. Thank you very much, sir.